Welcome to the November 2021 Star Wars Canon Update. Last month we got a new book and 10 new comics, so let's dive in. Thrawn Ascendancy Lesser Evil was released in the middle of the month and is the final installment of the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy. I found it to be right in the middle of all the canon Thrawn novels. I liked it more than Thrawn Alliance's Treason and Greater Good, but not quite as much as Chaos Rising, and the first Thrawn is still my top canon choice. Something about these newer Thrawn novels don't land for me the way the old Legends books did, and I think a lot of it has to do with either being too constrained by surrounding material like Star Wars Rebels, or, in the Ascendancy trilogy's case, being so outside of what's going on in the rest of the Star Wars universe that I struggle to keep up. I've done a full review on the book if you want to check that out, but what I've told people is that if you prefer your Star Wars to be more science fiction than fantasy, then the Ascendancy trilogy, and therefore Lesser Evil, will be right up your alley. And if you want to check out the audiobook for free on Audible, just follow the link in the description or visit www.audibletrial.com/Star Wars Explained. Moving into comics and the High Republic, the 11th issue of the Marvel run jumped right back in with Tarek and Keeve under attack from the Leveler. I wouldn't say this confirms my suspicions that the Leveler attacks Jedi by inundating them with fear, but it's definitely a step in that direction. But Lorna D spares them for the time being, claiming to need them alive. That allows Sareth to bring in Jedi reinforcements. Skier rampages against the Nile to save Keeve, so he's still wrestling with the dark side quite a bit. Lorna attempts to escape, but Avar grabs her ship with the Force, and that's where the issue leaves us, with the fates of Tarek and Sareth in limbo. I'm still loving this story. The art was unfortunately uneven this time around, but I'm glad Anandita will be back for issue 13. Trail of Shadows issue 2 wasn't as good as the first, but that's a high bar to clear, and still, I am very into this story and genre for Star Wars. The noir detective style is really working for me. Now we've got Emmerich and Cyan working together, and we get a little Star Wars CSI scene that was very fun. Watching them become a team is great. This was a relationship building issue, and that's completely fine. There just wasn't a big bombshell dropped like in the first. But still, this series is shaping up to be one of my favorite High Republic stories so far. The High Republic Adventures issue 10 was good, but felt kinda short. I think it was just action heavy, so there was a lot more straight art than dialogue, which is fine. It was all about Court becoming the Jedi and person he's meant to be after his mask breaks in a Nihil attack. He single-handedly sends their enemies into a retreat and finally sees his friends face to face. It was a fast but sweet issue, and seeing Court kick some butt was great. The fourth and final issue of The Monster of Temple Peak was enjoyable and had one very gasp-worthy moment. We've been seeing the story of Ty and her old Padawan friend Cleus Terradine unfold. We've known Terradine was eventually and supposedly kicked out of the Jedi Order, but we didn't know why. Well, now we know it wasn't true at all. He was accidentally killed by Ty when he became possessed by the dark side. That makes so much sense for her character, but Cavan Scott so cleverly planted seeds of misdirection years earlier that I was completely caught off guard. In the present day, her monster hunt comes to an end, and it turns out it was the people who were the real monsters all along. Kind of a predictable outcome for that half of the story, but I really enjoyed the flashbacks. Star Wars issue 18 was one of the final two issues in the War of the Bounty Hunters crossover event, and like many of the other final issues, I really liked this one. Each individual series felt really strong at the start and end, where the middle felt kinda repetitive. But man, was it great watching Kira and Leia talk together. That's exactly the kind of thing I wanted when I saw Kira was back. Let's see some new characters interacting with the ones that have been around for over 40 years. Basically, the only major thing that happens is Kira lets Leia know that Han is still alive and at Jabba's palace, and then they agree to work together to save him when the time is right. But the conversation itself was really fun to read. And for the other final story in War of the Bounty Hunters, let's talk about Bounty Hunters issue 17. This one also had some cool developments. Even if the middle issues of the crossover event felt slow, I do feel like the whole thing really shook up each individual series. As Valance attempts to escape the Executor after also failing to rescue Han, Vader captures him and heals him or fixes his cybernetics so the Imperial-turned-bounty hunter can now serve him. I don't see Valance agreeing to that, but I'm certainly curious to see how things play out in the future. Dr. Aphra issue 16 kept up the excellent momentum established by its finale in War of the Bounty Hunters. While Domina Tag roots out Crimson Dawn traitors in her midst, Aphra returns with intelligence on Black Sun as well as the dark side artifact she wielded called the Thought Dowser. Domina upgrades Aphra's damaged electro tattoos and sends her on a quest to learn more about the Thought Dowser's creators, a cult called the Ascendant. Also, Ronin Tag, who Aphra previously blew up and nearly killed, has recovered. I'm loving this. My favorite Aphra stories are when she gets to go on treasure or relic hunts, and this new Ascendant group is very intriguing. Alyssa Wong has been killing it with this series lately, and I really dig Minkyu Young's art. A Life Day one-shot issue came out with 4 little stories centered around the holiday. They were all short and sweet and felt like a good companion to the Life Day Treasury that came out earlier this year. That makes sense, Cavan Scott was involved in both. What surprised me is some new information about the Dringir. Apparently, there is still some danger to the plants even after they've been cut off from their hive mind. We see some awaken on Kashyyyk during the High Republic era, and then the final panel teases that some Dringir may survive on Batuu. I don't think that's gonna lead anywhere. It's just like one of those final shot moments of a movie suggesting that although things have ended peacefully for now, evil isn't gone forever. I wouldn't call this a must-read comic, but it's a fun little issue for the holiday season. Star Wars Adventures issue 12 was another standard Adventures issue, but it concluded a story from October about Rogue Squadron that I really enjoyed. The second story was about Aayla Secura and Asajj Ventress dueling early in the Clone Wars. They were both fine, but were short, and it's just hard to get fully invested in them. And finally, we got the 2021 Star Wars Adventures Annual, which also featured 2 stories. The first was about Han and Chewie helping Jabba find a spy thanks to the help of some Legends creatures called Hoojibs. It was cute, and it's fun to have the Hoojibs back. The second was about Lando's early days on Cloud City, learning to set aside his own gain for the good of the people he now rules. I liked that one, and it also brought in an old Legends villain, Wan Ion Strike. For Story of the Month, I'm going with Trail of Shadows for the second time in a row. I'm just loving the detective story set in the Star Wars universe that feels important and deeply connected with the rest of the High Republic era. In December, we're getting a new short story, 13 new comic issues, and is that it? I think that's it. Nothing else big. Except for the Book of Boba Fett. The series begins December 29th and heralds in what might become the busiest year Star Wars fans will ever get. 5 Disney Plus series are just the tip of the iceberg, so everyone buckle up. You can expect a lot of coverage from the Book of Boba Fett when it comes out, and the Canon update will return on January 1st to cover everything coming out on that calendar, and keep in mind that comic release dates have been changing constantly, so expect some shifts. But that's it for today. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.